Hi, I'm Roberta Glass, and you're listening to my channel. Today, we're in court with NXIVM. Mr. 100% says this cult is an open book. Stay tuned. So there were two hearings, one at 9:30 and one at 11 o'clock. The 9:30 hearing had to do with the discovery, and that hearing was heard by Judge Vera Scanlon. Now, this has to do with the material that was found on the encrypted devices, and they were talking about 10,000 documents just to start with. And the gist of the hearing was that the NXIVM lawyers want to get as many documents considered privileged. And the prosecution is asking for clarification. Why are you asking for that document to be privileged? Why is it privileged? Is it privileged because it has to do with what defendant or NXIVM and what lawyer? So there is going to be a lot of back and forth till they come to some kind of resolution, and that's what the judge is there for, to get solutions so that they won't be in conflict. So there were just Lauren Salzman and Allison Mack there for that hearing for the defendants. Mark Agnafilo sat next to Allison Mack. Allison Mack sat next to Lauren Salzman right in front of me. And Allison Mack and Lauren Salzman were chatting away happily. And Allison Mack looked like she was wearing quite a bit of makeup, and I wondered if that was a reaction to the criticism she had gotten for her looks when she appeared in court on previous occasions. I remarked, and many other people did remark as well, that she looked quite gray, quite thin, quite ill. So I don't know if she was covering that up with a lot of eye makeup and other makeup, but that's just one thing I noticed. But right as, and the other thing, of course, is that, she was chatting away happily with Lauren Salzman, and Nancy Salzman was not there because she's had surgery for her breast cancer. And the rumor is that she is making a deal with the state. So if she makes a deal, will Lauren Salzman make a deal? And if they're both making deals, then that would make them enemies of Allison Mack, and you would wonder why she would be happily chatting away, but Allison Mack does not appear to be in reality, so any kind of behavior does make you kind of scratch your head a bit. There was a great moment right as when the judge comes in, everybody stands up. So we're standing up as the judge comes in, and she takes a seat, and Mark Agnafilo turns his head to Allison Mack and whispers in her ear, "That's the judge." As if she could be anyone else. I thought it was so funny. So we went right from that hearing, meaning everybody in the courtroom went right on the elevator. I was in an elevator with Allison Mack and all their lawyers, Mark Agnafilo, Paul Daranassian, who is also a NXIVM lawyer, who also happens to be Harvey Weinstein's lawyer as well, was on the elevator, and the doors opened, and another lawyer was like, "Oh, hi, Paul," and he, had some small talk with him, and when the doors closed, Allison Mack quipped in the back, "Oh, Paul was homecoming king, or is homecoming king or something," and everyone kind of chuckled softly. So she appears to be in good spirits, at least in the elevators. Going to the 11 o'clock hearing, we had a special appearance by the Vanguard himself, Keith Raniere, looking worse than ever, which reminded me so much of the Seinfeld low pressure, water pressure episode. His hair looks like, the first thought was like 2-in-1 shampoo. His hair is like long and, fuzzed out, and it looks like he's dyeing it in this really awkward black color. I know Frank Parlato says he's going very gray, but not today. He looks like he's got some kind of dye going on in the hair, and really looking like a sort of a cross between maybe Manson and a mental patient, not looking quite like a Vanguard. So I was hoping that the bail application, his re-bail application, would be discussed, but it was not. They did discuss the jurors. They said they're going to go from a pool of about 600 jurors. Also, but the main point of discussion was the trust. Now, this trust was set up by Claire Bronfman, and she is paying for all the defendants' lawyers. So the prosecution wrote a letter to the judge and said, hey, this is a conflict of interest. And of course it is. I mean, it's ridiculous. But the judge is setting up Curcio hearings next week to question the lawyers and determine if it is, each lawyer has his or her own hearing, and to see if it is a conflict of interest. But the entertainment factor came in when Mark Agnifilo, Mr. 100%, stood up and started talking about defending the trust. And he said, I said there was a trust back early on in these hearings, meaning before Claire Bronfman was a defendant. And you can listen back to my earlier episode. I attended a NXIVM hearing, and you can hear me talk about how they talked about Claire Bronfman sort of in code and where the money was coming from. So he's saying, Mr. 100% goes on to say, this trust is no secret. Anything the government wants to know about this trust, they just ask me. And that he's just, always so willing to help, so smooth, and just really wants to help the court, Mr. Nice Guy, Mr. Smooth, Mr. Slick. And this was not lost on the judge. The judge gets it. And there were several quips back and forth between the two. One time, Mr. 100% said, I swear to God. And the judge said, oh, you don't need to swear to God, just to the court. It's funny. And, he had said this before with regards to the defendants talking to one another. And he had said to the court and to this judge, if the prosecution has any worries about the defendants talking to one another, just call me, just talk to me. So he's Mr. Casual. He just wants to deal with it, right then and there on the phone. Why bring it to court, right? So, and he did say at one point, this is not a secret, I'm an open book. Reading my, so the idea of a cult being an open book and the defense lawyer for a cult being an open book just really made me laugh. And he also argued that the government doesn't need to budget for the defense, doesn't need to waste its time budgeting for the defense, but this really isn't about budgeting for the defense. And the Judge Garifas got it immediately, and he started talking about another case with the mafia that had a trust for mafia defendants. And so I thought that was very interesting that immediately his mind went to another criminal enterprise, the mafia, if it existed. That's a joke. So that is what happened. I mean, it was very short. I did run into Claire Bronfman on my way to the bathroom. Last time I ran into Nancy Salzman on my way to the bathroom. And she is quite a scary, disturbed looking woman. I was frightened. I was really frightened. She's no one I want to be anywhere near. And I would think that other people, not knowing anything about her, would have a similar reaction. So as I was leaving, I got to talk to Melissa Roberto, who is doing an excellent job covering this case on Radar Online. And she works within the confines of that outfit and really sneaks in a lot of good information. And I had talked to her at a previous hearing, and so I asked her, what she thought of the hearing, and she said she was disappointed. She had thought also that the bail application would have come up, but it didn't. And I asked her what she thought of Keith Raniere's hair. I said, is that a dye? She goes, that is absolutely a dye job. And I said, well, he is looking pretty. She goes, bad. He looks like a clown. That's what she said. So, excuse me. So, it is nice to have someone else see the same thing that you see when you're in there. Not much press. Some former NXIVM members were there, women, and there's mostly women journalists. I saw one male journalist, but mostly women journalists in the courtroom. So the next hearing that won't be a Curcio hearing is going to be January 9th for oral arguments. So they have a whole schedule of submitting different arguments to the court back and forth on both sides. So that goes all the way up to March when this case starts. And I believe, or I predict, that this will be pushed back. I cannot see how they are going to come into any kind of agreement about all these documents and all these issues in time for this case to start on time in March. I just can't see it happening. But that is what happened. So I wish it were a juicier hearing. It's just always interesting to watch the dynamics between the defendants. And I think when the hearing concluded at 11:30, Keith Raniere must have been sorry that he did not attend the 9:30 hearing, because I'm sure he's happy to be out of the Brooklyn Metropolitan Jail. So that is the word. Okay, check back to this channel for